So it's that time of the year whenever we have kids going back to school, and that sort of takes me back to the time when I was a kid. I gotta say that one of the things that I miss about it is how efficient of a sleeper I was. I don't remember ever being up later than 11 p.m. on the weekends. The exception was there were some shows that I wanted to stay up for that started at 10 all the way until 11. I didn't want to miss them because I didn't have internet access like I do now. Even if I had internet access, it's not like the content that you were into was readily available for you to catch up at a later time, like YouTube makes it so easy now. But there was no such thing as me waking up in the middle of the night for any reason. I fell asleep and I would stay asleep until my mother woke me up. Nowadays, as an adult, anything can mess me up. Either the temperature of the place, a sickness, not being able to breathe well, hunger. It's just weird. And anxiety. What was anxiety as a kid? I did experience some of it in my shy cases, and when there would be parties, I was like the only child or the only girl, child, that I just couldn't relate with that many people. I guess that's how I became fond of and close to just older folks. The memory that I have of the latest I ever went to bed as a kid was either 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and that happened maybe twice. And it was during the holiday seasons at my grandma's house because, everybody would be up until past midnight. And normally my mom would make sure that I was in bed by midnight. But sometimes she allowed me to be up until a little later, depending on what was happening. I really can't remember. I guess they wanted some extra help cleaning or something. I don't know. I just know that this terrible habit that I have of staying up until late really wasn't a thing back then. Another thing that I miss is and be fully rested for the next day. It was rare for me to yawn, really. I just don't remember ever going a night without sleeping. One night I did have difficulty sleeping. It was in the middle of a storm. I also had like a heart issue going on. I had this weird heartbeat. Like I don't know, honestly. I just don't remember. My mother does, but we really don't talk about it. I vaguely remember that night. I don't want to tell you something that's wrong, but I know that it had to do with my heart. I was 9 years old, if I remember right, when this happened. It was rare for me to be sick like that. So another thing that I miss is, of course, everybody can relate to this, and it is the fact that all I had to worry about was school, good grades in school. But I wish that, having good grades in school takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of work, but I wish that was representative of the kind of work that you have to do as an adult to be successful as well. School is really theoretical, whereas when you become an adult, you actually have to apply the stuff that you supposedly learned. But how can you apply a lot of that if you haven't physically gotten to practice that? It's not a very hands-on experience, at least modern school, because I have little doubt in my mind that school back in the day as in my parents' time and all that, it was a completely different story. Another thing that I miss about my childhood is the environment, and what I mean by that is a lot of areas that I used to frequent, or everywhere I turn to pretty much, there's always a construction going on. There's definitely fewer trees in my present time than when I was growing up, and when I was growing up, there were constructions happening. I didn't think that a lot of my surroundings would be changing so drastically, like all this landscaping. It's crazy for me. So I miss that about being a kid because I felt like it was easier for me to just roam about and not really be trespassing someone's property now. Now you just have to be really careful as to where you're going. Another thing that I miss as a kid was definitely how much I could buy with just a $20 bill. This is not even my grandparents' time. Having a dollar was a big deal. Like, my mom would tell me that there was no such thing as buying a dollar's worth of candy because that would be too much. Like, a nickel would get you so much. And I just cannot conceive that. I cannot wrap my head around the inflation like that. I sort of sense it since I work and I have to buy my stuff. The fact that if I had the money that I have now a few decades earlier, I would be set for life. Something else that I miss about my childhood is how easy it was to transition through tragedies. I will try to explain this as best as I can. Nobody really told me that, I guess they as in the adults who surround you, people who surround you, they expect for you to just understand this. But as a child, coping with death, I feel like it's a little easier because you get taken care of a little more. Because since you're a kid, you know, people are sheltering you, they're taking care of you, they're there for you. Your hand is being held. But when you're an older person, you realize that you don't respond to tragedy in the same manner anymore. You may be more sensitive about it, or you may not sense anything. You are actually judged by the way that you respond to something. During childhood, I wish that someone would have told me, look at the people around you now and embrace them while you can, be close to them while you can, hug them while you can, especially older people, your older relatives, like my grandfathers. Spend as much time as you can with them because, you know, they go through a stage in life known as old age, and old age means that your capabilities are declining. And that means that at any time they may be goners. And I never thought that I would lose my grandfather at such a young age. Seriously, I thought I was going to have at least one grandfather when I reached my 20s. Like, my mom had a grandfather until she was in her 40s. I thought that I would have mine until my 20s, 30s. But, you know, nobody prepares you for that. I think had I been trained on that during my childhood, like had someone told me that, my perception of the world now would be a little different, but for the better. As in, I would handle losses a little better. It's not like I have trouble overcoming those things, because it's not like I have had people that close to me pass away so much, like that grandfather who I'm talking about. He's really the biggest, closest loss I've had. Once I start losing people, how am I going to handle that? Then again, I'm really not close with that many people. Like, my circle is very limited. I can't help but wonder, once tragedy knocks on my door, how am I going to handle that? Because I know that I will not have the support that I had as a child. When people understood that you're just vulnerable and some things you just don't understand, but as an adult, they expect for you to just have a plan on this and to keep your stuff together and just know how to handle it. Under different circumstances, other people just get it and they give you your space and they let you be yourself. Other people's expectations are different. I wonder if I should make a video specifically detailing what it is that I'm defining right now, because if it doesn't make sense to you, this portion that I'm describing, it's because I'm referencing some recent events in my life. But of course, I don't want to expose it right now. And if I were to discuss it, how can I disguise it to protect the guilty? The other aspect of childhood that I miss is how, since you're innocent and you're young and people just don't expect much out of you because, you know, you don't have a job, you don't have children. You're a child yourself, so you don't have children, and you don't have responsibilities. You don't have to respond to someone. All I was invested in was video games. But yeah, like, I had so much time for me and to do the things that I like and wanted. But at the same time, I didn't have to work for the things that I liked and wanted. It was just handed to me. But now as an adult, it's like there are some adults who live like that with the privilege of not having to be working like dogs to just be able to eat. Yeah, that's the part about growing up that sucks. As a child, of course, your sensitivity on some matters that are pitiful, is different. But at the same time, as a child, you want to be respected because for you, what's a big deal is not a big deal for adults, but because adults dismiss you like it's not a big deal, you don't learn that your feelings and your opinions are important. That's the issue I had. Stuff that I would cry about that for me was a big deal, even though it's childish stuff. It stink that, adults belittled me like that. It's like, come on, don't invalidate my feelings. It's kind of weird. There is some stuff that I miss about my childhood and some stuff that I don't. Like the holidays, I had no idea that they were just a business movement. Had I known that, I wouldn't have felt the same way about it. But maybe if I would have known about it, I wouldn't have understood it as well as I know now that I'm older. Because for me, video games were my life. Action figures were my life. Animes and cartoons were my life. I miss that magic of, Christmas is coming, so that means that I'm going to be spoiled with my favorite things. And as an adult, you don't get much, and you actually have to be the giver. And I'm not used to that, so. Anyways, you guys, that's about all that I can think of. I sense that maybe at some point in the future, I may revisit this. How about you guys? Share some of your experiences with me. I would like to know what you miss from back then, if you relate to anything that I'm saying. If you understood anything that I said here, I felt like I just rambled without any meaning. Anyways. Alright guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.